A woman in Newark, New Jersey, who suffered from homelessness, finally was able to save enough money to buy her dream home in Newark, New Jersey. But unfortunately, she was targeted by a member of an extremist group known as the Moorish sovereign citizens, who broke into her home, literally changed the locks, and claimed that the house belonged to them. Let's take a look at the video, which has some more details into what happened.
Someone decided that they wanted my house, so they sawed off the locks, put their own locks on, and he's now occupying the home. And we are out here. I've just been waiting out here with the cops at the neighbor's house while the SWAT team plans to move in and remove him. Yeah, that's been my day. How's yours?
It's just insane. So SWAT had to be called in, as you can see. The woman in the video and the victim in this case is Shanetta Little. And the SWAT team had to negotiate with this guy, get him to leave the home. But this story did lead to people wanting to know a little more about this extremist group, because oftentimes when we talk about extremist groups, especially sovereign citizens, we think of groups of white men. But in this case, we're talking about a group of black men who feel that the laws don't really apply to them. And they have similar reasoning that you get from sovereign citizens who are white, but there's a racial component to it as well. So let me get to that. So Little was a victim of a ploy known as paper terrorism, a favorite tactic of an extremist group that is one of the fastest growing, according to government experts and watchdog organizations, known as the Moorish sovereign citizen movement, and loosely based around a theory that black people are foreign citizens bound only by arcane legal systems. It encourages followers to violate existent laws in the name of empowerment. So, by the way, as you guys could see from the video, Little herself is a black woman, and she says that they claim to be about black liberation and opportunity and uplifting black people, but he is literally oppressing me and taking what's mine as a black woman. So this story is just insane, but this is clearly an issue across the country, right? The issue of sovereign citizens, not just this particular group. People who literally don't think the law applies to them, and they go around breaking the law, and more often than not, the way law enforcement responds to them just happens to be very different from the way law enforcement responds to everyone else. And I feel like they're almost, in a lot of cases, enabled.
Yeah, well, that's why I think this story has an ironic twist, which I want to get to in a second. But so you guys know, sovereign citizens was originally white, so two different groups now, and in fact, a lot of the sovereign citizens were white supremacists, and it was a nuclear case of white entitlement. We think because we're white, none of the laws should apply to us. We should get to break any law, and the laws are just for minorities and other people.
Taxes don't apply to us, that's another
right, I don't have to pay my taxes, taxes for black people and stuff. And so now the reality is, it's just a nuclear case of it, but the core of that is in the Republican Party. The rich don't want to pay their taxes. That's why the Republican legislators cut the budget for the IRS. We've told you 1,000 stories about that. And now that the laws are being applied evenly, especially during the pandemic, that's why the right wing's losing their mind. They're like, what? We thought the laws were for other people. Now you're gonna arrest us for breaking into Congress and trying to execute people? Now we're getting political prisoners. Right? And I can give you dozens of examples of that. So that's a cancer that's within the right wing in this country to begin with. Now, interestingly enough, it's jumped to this black group, the Moorish folks. Now, none of this makes any sense. The original movement didn't make any sense. The black version of it makes no sense. Okay, well, if you don't have to follow any of the laws and everything's your ancestral land, why did you take her particular house? Like, and by the way, they have no connection. They don't know each other at all. The guy doesn't explain why that's his ancestral land. Well, you know why? Because he's unbalanced. Of course he's unbalanced. None of this is true. None of this is even remotely true. And so, but by either the white supremacist or the black sovereign citizens' logic, if there are any, couldn't we just all go and take the homes in Beverly Hills? Okay, that's it. I'm just taking them.
That sounds pretty good.
Right? I mean, how could you not know that doesn't make any sense? I'm just amazed by people. But now here comes the ironic twist. If black folks start taking people's homes, all of a sudden the law is going to apply.
Well, okay, so that's what I wanted to get to, right? Because as I said earlier, oftentimes with militia groups and sovereign citizens, like the whole Bundy debacle, right? There's a lot of negotiating going on, guns are drawn, and somehow it seems like the militias get off easy. In this case, the man in question, I'll tell you who he is in just a minute, did face prosecution and some pretty serious criminal charges. The man who entered the house, his name is Hubert A. John of Los Angeles, made a long journey to Newark, New Jersey, was arrested on June 17th and charged with criminal mischief, burglary, criminal trespass, and making terroristic threats. Prosecutors in New Jersey are preparing to take the case before a grand jury, and that's according to a spokesperson with the prosecutor's office in Essex County. And so there are clearly some pretty serious criminal charges for this guy. But going back to this particular group of sovereign citizens, the Moorish sovereign citizens, increasingly across the country, sovereign citizens have clashed with the authorities, tied up resources, and frazzled lives in their insistence that laws such as the requirement to pay taxes, obey speed limits, and even obtain simple things like a license for a pet dog do not apply for them. Now, membership in the Moorish citizen, sovereign citizen movement has been driven by the internet into the hundreds of thousands, the Law Center said. On its website, Rise of the Moors, for example, that cited reparations, part of a national conversation about race and equality, as the driving factor for its belief that its members can claim things as their own.
Yeah.
So this is their way of getting the reparations that they feel they're entitled to.
But as you can tell, none of it is attached to reality, because if you're gonna do reparations, why would you take it from another black person? That doesn't make any sense. Why'd you go all the way across the country and take that poor woman's house?
Right.
And so there's a right way to do reparations. You could go through political channels, and we should, by the way. But to just randomly grab people's house because of a treaty we signed with the Moors and we think that we're related to the Moorish people, well, even that doesn't make sense, because at the time, here we go, the Moors were, that region was occupied by the Ottoman Empire, and Ottoman law applied.
Of course it was.
Of course. So Moorish sovereign citizens, I got both bad news and good news for you. I am your new leader, okay? And I command you to actually follow American law. I mean, as long as we're doing nutso stuff, right? Moorish law or Ottoman law, who cares? None of it makes any sense,
no.
Right? You can't just take people's property. You can't just ignore the law. But look, guys, this is a small fringe group, and they got to follow the laws and they're et cetera, right? But remember, the giant group called Republicans are saying it's government tyranny to wear a mask. It's government tyranny to ask for the government to ask you to get vaccinated.
They literally say taxation is theft.
And they say taxation is theft.
Yeah.
So we're like, ha ha, he, that's so funny. This radical group of black guys is saying that they don't have to follow the law. 30% of the country is white guys who say they don't have to follow the law. Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.